It's Thursday, November 30th, the last day of November 2023. Your Day Weather Podcast is being brought to you by Hot Springs County Travel and Tourism, reminding you that as temperatures drop and snow is on the horizon at Thermopolis, you can always find yourself in hot water. Well, it is going to trend a little colder today and tomorrow. We are going to see those mountain snows come in over the weekend. We have a low pressure system that's tracking across Arizona, New Mexico, and West Texas today, and that's pulling in colder air from the north, bringing it into the northern and central Rockies. But the precipitation with this system is going to be spotty and staying in those southern areas. Most of the central and northern Rockies really won't see very much. Now, strong, moist jet stream winds cut across the Pacific Northwest and into the northern and parts of the central Rockies this weekend. As we've been showing you over the last couple of days, this is a pattern that makes it snow in the mountains with high winds on the plains, but we may end up with some snow showers across some low elevations of the region. This is especially true in parts of Wyoming, where you get these banded snow showers that can come off the mountains and cause what we call snow squall activity, where you get nothing that's organized, but little pockets of snow coming off the mountains that could cause some travel concerns when you combine that with the wind. And we'll show you that here in a moment. Also, the sun and what we showed you yesterday is really throwing out. We've got several coronal mass ejections coming our way. So for you sky watchers, your Aurora Borealis watchers, put your antennas up really beginning tonight and for the next few nights, as we've got at least a G3 storm coming. As we take a look at more photos coming in about the contrast that we've been showing you about these areas that got clobbered with snow, than areas that didn't get anything with those snow holes. Thanks to Carl and Dick for sending this in. Carl there in the Lander area in the Wind River Basin, we showed you this photo yesterday of the strong inversion, the cold air and the fog and the deep snow cover, but not very far away up north in Big Timber, Montana, where one of those snow holes were, we had a fire, a breakout on November 27th. So only 300 miles apart, Big Timber to the Wind River Basin, we have just huge contrast. And that's a lot of how our terrain is, and that's how a lot of our weather is in the West, a lot of contrast. And we have another situation where we've got another great situation and a photo that's showing you this. Kelly was on the way from Kemmer to Casper and going over South Pass, looking into the Wind River Basin there. You can see all the snow, but on the way, a lot of sagebrush too, depending on where those snow holes were. So we are taking a look at a patchwork where there's still a lot of snow on the ground in areas where there isn't snow at all. Now, quickly about the sun. A cannibal CME is coming, and you can read there in the discussion from spaceweather.com exactly what a cannibal coronal mass ejection is. So the sun is throwing out a lot of coronal mass ejection energy right now, and they now have a G3 watch in effect for December 1st. But for sky watchers out there, these time frames, these predictions of when they arrive are always a little bit tricky. So the arrival is scheduled to arrive tomorrow, but probably worth watching tonight. You never know. But we have Earth-directed coronal mass ejections coming, and it's going to be a strong one, at least as strong as that we have seen this winter season and fall season so far. Now, across the Pacific Ocean, a lot going on. Wanted to show you the very strong jet stream winds that are forming across the North Pacific. I'll tell you this, when you have the North Pacific get really energetic with very strong jet stream winds going across the North Pacific this time of year, it ends up later creating weather in Western North America. It ends up bringing in something, whether it's a strong front or a strong low pressure system. It starts into motion weather in the West. Speaking of weather in the West, the far West, look at this low bringing some heavy rains and strong seas to Hawaii. So the Pacific is getting very energetic right now. You can see the low that's going across the Four Corners area right here. You can see it's a small system, but folks down there are going to get some precipitation. But the rest of the West, still generally speaking, pretty clear. And here is a view of the predicted jet stream winds across the North Pacific. Here's Alaska, here's British Columbia, here's the West Coast, and now here's Japan. So if you were to get on a flight from Tokyo to San Francisco tomorrow, you're going to get there on time or ahead of schedule. Huge tailwind, just really strong winds spanning the whole Pacific Ocean. So that's a signal of more active weather to come over the next 7 to 10 days and into the longer term. And it starts as we head on into the weekend. So there's the low over New Mexico this morning. It's going to head off to the southern plains and cause wet weather down here. And this is the next system. There's that packing, those very black lines very close together, that strong temperature gradient, driving in a lot of Pacific air and moisture into the Pacific Northwest first as we get into tonight and tomorrow. Then over the weekend, this is by noon Saturday, we have a small upper level low in that tight gradient with those jet stream winds coming on in. And that's going to drag moisture and cool, moist air from the Pacific, push it onto the continent. Remember, when you take air and you have to lift it onto the land, when you take the atmosphere and it's forced up, when atmospheric conditions are forced vertically up, you're going to create clouds, you're going to create precipitation. And all of the mountains of the Pacific Northwest and the West aid in that lifting mechanism. That's why when we take a look at an animated view starting Saturday morning, you can see those strong jet stream winds go across the northern Rockies with that wave right there, then a secondary wave coming in behind it. So those jet stream winds are moist. They have to be lifted over the mountains. There's a natural lifting mechanism going on. The jet stream winds in themselves cause a vertical motion in the atmosphere that leads to precipitation. And if we animate the precipitation over time, you can see where the Pacific Northwest and into the central and northern Rockies, the major mountain ranges there, you'll just see where they're going to be getting in and out of periods of snow all the way through the course of the weekend. And if we add that all together, that's what it looks like. Same thing I showed you yesterday. The major mountain ranges, like a catcher's mitt, catch those waves of moisture coming on through. This little tail of precipitation right here that's getting out into the plains, we need to watch. This may or may not develop, but as we get into the latter half of the weekend, this is where we may end up getting some snow showers out across some of the lower elevations of Interstate 80 and I-25. We'll need to keep an eye on that. This is what the snowfall totals look like through Monday. That will certainly help the snowpack. Still expecting this to be a windy pattern along and east of the divide. Really, the whole continental divide from Canada all the way to the Mexico border. That is just a very windy pattern. So there's going to be a fair amount of weather going on this weekend, depending on where you are. But we do have a break. A nice break in the weather develops. High pressure comes in behind it. So as we get into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, probably Friday, a lot of next week's weather will be dominated by this high pressure, so it doesn't look bad. But we showed you all those really strong jet stream winds in the North Pacific. That's going to help form a trough of low pressure here that eventually is going to come into the west. This is the weekend of the 9th and 10th. Now, this system could end up going all the way down into here, stalling out, then coming back again. Or it may just sweep through next weekend. Whatever happens, the low has to come through the western United States next weekend. So that'll be our next larger weather system to keep an eye on. Have yourself a good Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow, the first day of December.